My daughter's fiancé demanded $55,000 for a wedding or no wedding. My name is Susan Bennett. What Preston Whitfield IV didn't know was that his family's $3.8 million Newport mansion was mortgaged through my bank. You see, Preston thought he was bullying some poor black woman who worked at a community bank. What he got instead was 24 hours later, his family was staring at foreclosure papers. Sometimes the most dangerous people are the ones who look harmless. I stayed completely silent during his condescending lecture about people like us needing to understand our financial limitations. I nodded politely when he threatened to cancel my daughter's wedding. And then I made a decision that would destroy his entire world and nearly destroy mine. By the way, if this story sounds familiar, maybe you've dealt with entitled people who think money and old family names make them better than everyone else. Hit that subscribe button. I'd love to know where you're watching from, especially if you've ever been underestimated because of your race or your background. Trust me, you're going to want to hear how this ends, because it's not the happy ending you're expecting. It all started 10 months ago when my daughter Nicole brought home her fiancé. Nicole had been dating Preston for 10 months when she finally brought him to our house in South Providence. I could see the disappointment in his eyes the moment he stepped out of his Mercedes and saw our neighborhood. Small houses, chain-link fences, working families. This wasn't the background he'd imagined for his Yale-educated girlfriend. I was wearing my usual Saturday clothes, jeans, and a Rhode Island College t-shirt that had seen better days. My 1,998 Toyota Camry, with 215,000 miles, sat in the driveway next to his spotless car. The contrast was intentional on my part, but he didn't need to know that. "So you're Nicole's mother," Preston said, extending a manicured hand. His Gucci belt probably cost more than most people in this neighborhood made in a week. "Susan Bennett, nice to finally meet you. Nicole tells me you work in finance?" I noticed the pause, the careful word choice, like he was trying to figure out how to ask what I did without sounding rude. "I work at a bank," I said simply. Mom's being modest. Nicole jumped in quickly. "She's been with Bennett Financial for 28 years, started there right out of college." What she didn't know was that I didn't work at Bennett Financial. I owned it. 65 branches across New England. $1.8 billion in assets. 1,700 employees. But Nicole thought her mother was just another bank manager, maybe making $65,000 a year if she was lucky. Preston's smile was the kind wealthy white people give to service workers. Polite, distant, patronizing. That's impressive. Loyalty like that is rare these days. He glanced around our modest living room, taking in the worn furniture, the family photos on the walls, the framed picture of Nicole's Yale graduation. "Yale," he said, examining the diploma. "Impressive. Must have been quite an investment for your family." The way he said investment made it clear he thought we'd struggled to afford it. He had no idea I'd paid her full tuition, 4 years, $340,000, without touching a penny of my real assets. I'd let Nicole believe she was on scholarships because I wanted her to succeed on her own merit, not because of my money. That's what I told myself, anyway. The truth was more complicated. The truth was, I'd spent 28 years building an empire while missing my daughter's childhood, and I was ashamed of what I'd sacrificed to get here. "Nicole worked very hard," I said simply. "Of course. Merit scholarships help so much, don't they?" Nicole's face went tight. She'd never told him about any scholarships because there weren't any. She thought her mother had taken out loans, made sacrifices, worked overtime to afford Yale. She didn't know that Yale's yearly tuition was less than what Bennett Financial made in 2 hours. "Dad," Nicole said quietly, "Preston's family is hosting an engagement party next month at the Newport Country Club." "Been in my family for 4 generations," Preston added. He was marking territory, establishing hierarchy, old money versus whatever he thought we were. "That sounds wonderful," I said. "It will be," Preston replied. Though I have to be honest, Mrs. Bennett, Nicole, and I have been discussing the wedding, and we have some concerns about the venue situation. Here it comes, I thought. Nicole showed me the reception hall you suggested. Rossi's on Federal Hill. He pronounced it like it was painful. I'm sure it's adequate for certain celebrations, but our guest list includes partners from my law firm, family friends, business associates, people who expect a certain standard. Nicole looked mortified. Preston, we talked about this. I know, sweetheart, and I want to make this work. But we need to be realistic about what kind of wedding represents both our families appropriately. Both our families. He meant his family. Mine was just along for the ride. I kept my expression neutral, but inside something was shifting. I'd spent 22 years building Bennett Financial from a single storefront loan office serving South Providence to one of New England's largest privately held banking institutions. I'd done it quietly, deliberately, always staying below the radar. Nicole thought I was just another bank employee because that's what I'd wanted her to think. After her father died when she was 5, I'd thrown myself into work, 80-hour weeks, missing recitals, missing parent-teacher conferences, missing everything that mattered while I built something that would last. I told myself I was securing her future, but really, I was running from grief and guilt, and I'd let her grow up thinking we were struggling because I couldn't face the truth about what kind of mother I'd been. But watching this entitled white boy dismiss my daughter's happiness for the sake of his social status, that was testing my patience in ways I hadn't expected. What did you have in mind? I asked. Preston brightened. There's a beautiful venue in Newport. The Breakers. Where people like us typically. He caught himself. Where the ceremony would be more appropriate for our combined social circles. People like us. Not people like me. But he had no idea what people like me could really do, or what I was willing to lose to prove it. The call came on a Tuesday evening while I was in my home office reviewing quarterly reports. Bennett Financial's numbers weren't good. We were over-leveraged, stretched too thin after expanding too quickly during the boom years. The subprime crisis had hit our community banking model hard. On paper, we had $1.8 billion in assets. In reality, we were one major loan default away from serious trouble. My phone rang. Nicole. Mom, can you come over? Preston and I need to talk to you about something important. 20 minutes later, I was sitting in their Cambridge apartment. A place I'd helped Nicole secure, but she thought she was renting with money saved from her marketing job. Preston had clearly been pacing. His usually perfect hair was disheveled, his tie loosened. Mrs. Bennett, he began, I want to be direct. Nicole and I have been looking at wedding venues, and we found the perfect location, the Breakers in Newport. I knew the place. Oceanside elegance. Historic mansion. $1,600 per person minimum. It's beautiful, Nicole said quietly, but it's expensive. How expensive? I asked. Preston cleared his throat. For the guest list we're planning, 175 people, the total would be approximately $280,000. Nicole's face went pale. I could see her doing the math, thinking about her mother's imaginary bank salary, wondering how we'd possibly afford it. That's quite a bit, I said carefully. Which is why, Preston continued, I've been thinking about how to make this work for everyone. My family has connections at the venue. We could potentially get the cost down to, let's say, $55,000 from your side. $55,000, like he was doing us a favor. The thing is, he went on, this really needs to be decided soon. The Breakers books up years in advance. If we don't secure the date this week, we'll lose it. An ultimatum wrapped in urgency. Nicole was staring at her hands. Mom, you don't have to. Actually, I do, Preston interrupted. Nicole, sweetheart, you know how important this is to both our families. My parents have already started planning. They've invited senators, judges, partners from 3 law firms. This isn't just a wedding, It's a networking event that will benefit both of us for years to come. Both of us. Again, he meant himself. And if we can't make it work? I asked. Preston's mask slipped for just a moment. Well, then we'd have to seriously reconsider our timeline. Maybe postpone until we can find something more financially feasible. The threat was clear. $55,000 or no wedding. Nicole's eyes filled with tears. Preston, you're putting my mother in an impossible position. I'm being realistic about our situation, he replied. Nicole, your mother works at a community bank. She's probably making what, $65,000 a year? Asking her to contribute $55,000 to a wedding is already generous considering the proportional investment. $65,000 a year, if only he knew. But more than the money, Preston had just revealed something crucial. He saw my family as beneath his. We were the charity case he was graciously allowing into his circle, as long as we paid the admission fee. I watched my daughter's face crumble. She was caught between the man she loved and the mother she thought couldn't afford to give her the wedding of her dreams. What she didn't know was that $55,000 was what Bennett Financial made in less than 2 hours on a good day. But we weren't having many good days lately. I need some time to think about this, I said. Of course, Preston said quickly. But like I mentioned, we really need an answer by Friday. The venue won't hold the date past that. After I left their apartment, I sat in my Camry and made a phone call. Maria, it's Susan. I need you to pull a file for me. Whitfield. Jonathan and Catherine Whitfield, Newport residents. Maria Rodriguez had been my right hand at Bennett Financial for 15 years. She knew every loan, every mortgage, every account. The Newport mansion? Susan, that's a $3.8 million property. I know. Pull the mortgage file. I want to see the payment history. Is this about Nicole's fiancé? Just pull the file, Maria. What she sent me an hour later was interesting, very interesting. The Whitfield mansion had been mortgaged through Bennett Financial 8 years ago. Original loan, $3.2 million. Current balance, $3.4 million. They'd refinanced twice, each time pulling out more equity. Monthly payment, $18,000. And they were 90 days behind. The perfect Newport family, the old money elite, were drowning in debt. They'd been using home equity like an ATM for years. Private school tuition, luxury cars, country club memberships, all financed by loans against a house they technically didn't own anymore. Preston's desperation for $55,000 suddenly made more sense. His family was broke. They needed Nicole's perceived wedding contribution to cover their own costs, maybe even to catch up on their mortgage payments. My phone rang again. David Chen, my business partner, and the COO of Bennett Financial. Susan, we need to talk about the Whitfield loan. The board is pushing for foreclosure. They're 90 days past due, and with our liquidity situation, we can't afford to carry bad debt right now. I know, David. I'm looking at the file now. It's a $3.4 million loan that's not performing. If we foreclose, we can auction the property, recoup our principal, maybe even make a profit given Newport real estate values. The board wants to move forward. Give me 48 hours. Susan, this isn't personal. It's business. We're over-leveraged. We need to clean up our balance sheet. The Whitfield property is valuable enough to help our cash position. I said give me 48 hours, David. After I hung up, I sat in my car thinking about what I was about to do. The Whitfield loan was legitimately in default. Foreclosure was a standard business decision. Banks did it every day. But I knew the truth about my own motivation. This wasn't just business. This was personal. Preston had threatened my daughter's happiness. He'd insulted my family. He'd made it clear that people like us needed to know our place. And now I had the power to show him exactly what place his family really occupied, not at the top of Newport society, but 90 days away from losing everything. The question was whether using that power made me a protective mother or something darker. Whether I was defending my daughter or using her relationship as an excuse to seize a valuable asset that Bennett Financial desperately needed. I drove home and pulled out my phone. I had calls to make, because by Friday, when Preston expected my answer about the $55,000, I was going to give him an answer he'd never forget. But first, I needed to do something I should have done 28 years ago. I needed to tell my daughter the truth about who her mother really was, about the empire I'd built while missing her childhood, about the wealth I'd hidden out of guilt and shame, because what I was about to do would expose everything, and Nicole deserved to hear it from me first. I just hoped she'd understand, though part of me knew she wouldn't. Part of me knew that the moment I revealed the truth, I'd lose her trust forever. But I'd already lost so much building this empire. What was one more thing? I called Nicole that night and asked her to come home the next morning, not to her apartment. Home. The house in South Providence where she'd grown up thinking we were barely getting by. She arrived at 9 a.m., looking worried. "Mom, what's wrong? You sounded serious on the phone." "Sit down, baby. We need to talk." Nicole sat across from me at the kitchen table where we'd eaten countless meals, where I'd helped her with homework on the rare nights I came home before 10 p.m., where she'd eaten dinner alone so many times while I worked late, building something I told myself was for her future. "Nicole, I need to tell you something I should have told you a long time ago. About my job, about our money, about why I let you believe we were struggling when we weren't." "What are you talking about?" "Bennett Financial. I don't just work there. I own it. I founded it 22 years ago. I built it from a single storefront loan office into one of the largest privately held banks in New England. 65 branches, $1.8 billion in assets, 1,700 employees." Nicole stared at me. "That's not funny, Mom. It's not a joke. Your Yale tuition? I paid it outright. Every penny. This house? I own it. I also own a townhouse in Boston, a condo in Miami, and about $40 million in various investments. Everything you thought was a struggle, scholarships, loans, sacrifices, it was all a lie. Why would you lie about that? Because I wanted you to succeed on your own merit. Because I didn't want you to be defined by my money. Because..." I paused, trying to find words for 28 years of guilt. Because I was ashamed. Ashamed of being successful? Ashamed of what I sacrificed to get there. Your father died when you were 5 years old. I threw myself into work instead of processing that grief. I missed your childhood, Nicole. Every recital where you looked for me in the audience and I wasn't there. Every parent-teacher conference I skipped. Every night you ate dinner alone because I was working late. I built an empire, but I wasn't there when you needed a mother. Nicole's face had gone completely still. "So you lied to me for 28 years because you felt guilty about being a bad mother? That's your excuse?" "It's not an excuse. It's an explanation." "No, Mom. An explanation is, I worked late sometimes. A lie is letting me think we were poor, letting me feel ashamed of our neighborhood, letting me be embarrassed about our car and our house when you could have afforded anything. Do you know how many times I didn't invite friends over because I was ashamed of where we lived?" "Nicole, I'm sorry." "You're sorry? I'm 28 years old and I just found out my entire childhood was a performance. What else have you lied about?" This was the moment I had to tell her the rest. Preston's family. The Whitfields. Their Newport mansion is mortgaged through Bennett Financial. They're 90 days past due on a $3.4 million loan. My board wants to foreclose. Nicole stood up so fast her chair fell backward. "No, tell me you're not doing what I think you're doing." "Nicole, this is a legitimate business decision. They're in default." "A legitimate business decision?" "Mom, that's my fiancé's family. You're going to foreclose on them because Preston asked for wedding money?" "I'm going to foreclose because they haven't paid their mortgage in 3 months, and my bank can't afford to carry bad debt." We're over-leveraged, Nicole. Bennett Financial is in trouble. The Whitfield property is valuable enough to help our cash position. So you're using my relationship as a business opportunity? That's not fair. Fair? You want to talk about fair? You lied to me for 28 years. You let me grow up thinking we were poor. And now you're going to destroy my fiancé's family because your business needs money? Because he hurt your feelings at dinner? He didn't hurt my feelings. He showed me who he really is. Someone who thinks we're beneath him. Someone who threatened to cancel your wedding if we couldn't pay $55,000. That's not love, Nicole. That's manipulation. And what you're doing isn't manipulation? You have all this power, all this money I didn't know about, and you're going to use it to prove a point, to show Preston that he underestimated you? This isn't about protecting me, Mom. This is about your ego. The words hit harder than I expected because they were partially true. Yes, the Whitfield loan was legitimately in default. Yes, foreclosure was a sound business decision, given Bennett Financial's precarious financial position. But was I doing it purely for business reasons? Or was I using Preston's racism and classism as justification for something I wanted to do anyway? Nicole, listen to me. Preston's family is broke. They're drowning in debt. The $55,000 he demanded? They need it to cover their own costs. Maybe even to catch up on their mortgage. He's using you. So are you, apparently. You're using my relationship to justify a business decision that conveniently also gets revenge on someone who insulted you. That's not what this is. Then don't do it. If this is really just business, wait. Give them time to catch up on payments. Don't foreclose right now, right before my wedding, when it will obviously look like retaliation. I can't wait, Nicole. My board is pushing this. We need to clean up our balance sheet. Every day we carry bad debt puts the entire company at risk. Your company. Not my wedding. Not my relationship. Your company that I didn't even know existed until 20 minutes ago. Nicole grabbed her purse. I need to leave. I need to think about all of this. About who you really are. About what else you've been hiding. Nicole, wait. No, Mom. You've had 28 years to tell me the truth. I think I deserve a few days to process it. She walked out. I heard her car start, drive away. And I sat in my kitchen wondering if I'd just made the biggest mistake of my life. My phone rang. David Chen. Susan, the board met this morning. They want to move forward with the Whitfield foreclosure immediately. They're voting tomorrow. If you want to stop this, you need to make your case now. I'm not going to stop it. Are you sure? Because once we file, there's no going back. This will be public, messy. And given your daughter's relationship with Preston Whitfield, it's going to look personal, no matter how legitimate the business reasons are. I know, David. File the papers. After I hung up, I sat in the silence of my house and wondered what I'd just done. I told myself I was protecting Nicole. But maybe Nicole was right. Maybe I was just proving a point. Maybe I was using my daughter's relationship to justify taking something I wanted anyway. The Whitfield Mansion. $3.8 million. Valuable Newport real estate that could solve a lot of Bennett Financial's problems. Was I a protective mother? Or was I just another banker putting profits over people? I didn't know anymore. All I knew was that by tomorrow, the foreclosure papers would be filed, and there would be no going back. The foreclosure papers were filed Thursday morning. By Thursday afternoon, Preston was calling Nicole. By Thursday evening, he was at my door. I'd expected anger. What I got was something worse, desperation. Mrs. Bennett, please. Can we talk? I let him in. He looked like he hadn't slept. His perfect hair was a mess. His eyes were red. I know about Bennett Financial. I know you own it. I know about the foreclosure. He sat down without being invited. My parents are devastated. That house has been in our family for 4 generations. Then they should have made their mortgage payments. We've been going through a difficult time financially. My father's investment firm took losses. We needed a few months to restructure. We were going to catch up. You're 90 days past due on an $18,000 monthly payment, Preston. That's not a few months. That's a pattern. I know it looks bad. But Mrs. Bennett, please, there has to be another way. Can't we work out a payment plan? An extension? I looked at this man who'd sat in my living room 2 weeks ago and told me people like my family needed to understand our financial limitations, who'd demanded $55,000 or threatened to cancel my daughter's wedding, who'd assumed I was some poor black woman he could manipulate. Where were you planning to get the $55,000 for the wedding, Preston? He went very still. The $55,000 you demanded from me. Where was that money going? For the venue? For the wedding costs? No. Your family was going to use it to catch up on mortgage payments, weren't they? You were going to take money from my daughter's mother, money you thought I couldn't afford, and use it to save your family's house. Preston's face confirmed everything. You were willing to let me struggle, sacrifice, maybe even take out loans at $65,000 a year to pay for a wedding that was really just a way to cover your family's debts. And you had the audacity to lecture me about financial limitations. Mrs. Bennett, I'm sorry. I was wrong about you, about your family. I was an arrogant fool. Yes, you were. But that's not why I'm foreclosing, Preston. I'm foreclosing because your family defaulted on a $3.4 million loan and my bank can't afford to carry that debt. This is business. Is it? Or is this revenge? The question hung in the air between us. It's both, I said finally. Your family is legitimately in default. Foreclosure is the appropriate business response. But am I enjoying it? Am I using your racism and your arrogance as justification? Yes, I am. And I'm not going to apologize for that. My parents will lose everything. Then they should have thought about that before treating people like me as beneath them. Before raising a son who thinks old money makes him better than immigrant families and working-class people. Before defaulting on a mortgage they couldn't afford while maintaining country club memberships and luxury cars. Preston stood. I hope you're proud of yourself. Using your daughter's relationship as a weapon. Because that's what you're doing. Nicole will never forgive you for this. After he left, I sat in my living room thinking about his words. Was he right? Was I sacrificing my relationship with Nicole just to prove a point to Preston and his family? My phone rang. It was Nicole. Mom, Preston just called me. He's devastated. His family is losing their home. Nicole, they defaulted on their mortgage. This isn't personal. It feels personal, Mom. It feels like you're punishing Preston for underestimating you, and you're using your power to destroy his family. His family destroyed themselves by living beyond their means and defaulting on their obligations. Maybe. But you're the one filing foreclosure right now, right before our wedding, when you know it will cause maximum damage. You could have waited. You could have worked out a payment plan. You chose not to. Bennett Financial is in trouble, Nicole. We're over-leveraged. We need to clean up bad loans. The board is pushing this. It's not just my decision. But you're not stopping it either. You have the power to delay this, and you're choosing not to use it because Preston insulted you. Because his family looked down on us. He threatened to cancel your wedding if I couldn't pay $55,000. He was going to use that money to cover his family's debts while making you think it was for the venue. He manipulated both of us. So you're protecting me by destroying his family? How is that different from what he did? I didn't have a good answer for that. Nicole, I'm trying to do what's right. For who, Mom? For me? Or for yourself? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're more interested in revenge than in my happiness. If you marry Preston, you're marrying into a family that's broke and in denial about it. A family that will expect you to bail them out financially. A family that looked down on us and only changed their tune when they realized we had money. Is that really what you want? What I want is a mother who trusts me to make my own decisions. What I want is honesty, but apparently, I can't have either of those things. Nicole, please. I'm staying with Preston tonight. His family needs support, and honestly, I need space from you right now. She hung up. I sat alone in my house, the empire I'd built suddenly feeling very empty. David Chen had told me once that success in business often meant sacrificing relationships, that you couldn't build something great without making enemies, without making hard choices that hurt people. But I'd never thought one of those people would be my own daughter. Friday morning, the foreclosure became public. The news picked it up immediately. Black-owned bank forecloses on historic Newport estate. The headlines made it sound noble. Like I was some kind of champion for the underdog, taking down old money privilege. The reality was messier. Bennett Financial needed that $3.8 million property to shore up our balance sheet. The Whitfields had defaulted on their loan, and I was using Preston's racism as moral justification for a business decision that benefited me. Maria called. "Susan, you need to see this. Channel 10 is running a story." I turned on the television. The reporter was standing in front of the Whitfield mansion with a foreclosure notice clearly visible. The Whitfield family, longtime members of Newport's social elite, facing foreclosure on their historic family estate after defaulting on mortgage payments to Bennett Financial Group, a Black-owned community bank founded by Susan Bennett. The story continued. Sources close to the situation described discriminatory comments made by Preston Whitfield IV toward his fiancé's family. The foreclosure has raised questions about whether this is a legitimate business action or personal retaliation. They were asking the question I'd been avoiding, the question Nicole had already answered. Was I using my power to protect my daughter? Or was I just proving that I could? My phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize. "Mrs. Bennett, this is Jonathan Whitfield, Preston's father. We need to talk." Jonathan Whitfield wanted to meet in person. Neutral territory. A coffee shop in downtown Providence, nowhere near Newport, nowhere near our respective worlds colliding publicly. He looked older than I'd imagined. Tired. The kind of tired that comes from maintaining appearances while everything crumbles underneath. "Mrs. Bennett, thank you for meeting me. I'm listening. I won't waste your time with excuses. We defaulted on our mortgage. We've been living beyond our means for years. The house, the club memberships, the lifestyle, it was all built on debt. You have every legal right to foreclose. I know I do, but I'm asking you, as one parent to another, to reconsider. Not for me, not for my wife, for Preston and Nicole. Give us 90 days. We'll sell assets, liquidate investments, catch up on payments. Don't destroy our family right before their wedding." Preston was willing to destroy their relationship if I couldn't pay $55,000. Money he knew I supposedly couldn't afford. Money you needed for your mortgage payments. Jonathan Whitfield's face confirmed it. That was wrong. We were desperate. We made poor choices. Preston shouldn't have put that pressure on Nicole or on you. Preston didn't just put pressure on us, Mr. Whitfield. He made it clear that my family wasn't good enough for yours, that people like us needed to understand our place. He assumed I was poor and uneducated because I'm black and I live in South Providence. I know, and I'm ashamed. We raised him to value the wrong things: legacy, status, appearances. We taught him that old money meant something special. We were wrong. You were wrong. But that doesn't change the fact that Bennett Financial needs to recover this debt. We're not in a position to extend grace right now. Jonathan leaned forward. I heard rumors that your bank is overleveraged, that you expanded too quickly, that the foreclosure isn't just about Preston's behavior, it's about your balance sheet. He'd done his research. My bank's financial situation isn't your concern. It is if you're using our default as an opportunity to shore up your assets while publicly claiming moral high ground. The media is painting you as the hero taking down privileged white people. But we both know there's more to this story. Are you threatening me, Mr. Whitfield? I'm stating facts. You have legitimate business reasons to foreclose, but you also have personal reasons. And if this goes to court, my lawyers will make sure everyone knows that. They'll question your motivations. They'll investigate Bennett Financial's books. They'll drag your daughter into depositions about her relationship with Preston. Is that really what you want? It was a threat wrapped in logic. And he was right. A legal battle would expose everything. Bennett Financial's precarious position, my personal vendetta, Nicole caught in the middle, forced to testify about her relationship. Your son demanded $55,000 from a woman he thought made $65,000 a year. He threatened to cancel his own wedding. That's who you raised. That's the legacy you're defending. And you lied to your daughter about your wealth for 28 years. You let her grow up thinking she was poor when you're worth millions. Who's the better parent, Mrs. Bennett? The words hit hard because they were true. We were both flawed. Both had made choices that hurt our children. Both were now using them as pawns in a larger battle. What do you want, Mr. Whitfield? 90 days. We'll catch up on every missed payment. We'll pay penalties. We'll agree to stricter terms. Just don't foreclose right now. Let Preston and Nicole have their wedding. Let them start their marriage without this hanging over them. And if you can't make the payments in 90 days, then we'll sell the house ourselves. You'll get your money, but at least we'll have time to do it with dignity instead of being auctioned off like criminals. I thought about Nicole's face when she told me she was staying with Preston, the disappointment, the betrayal, the realization that her mother had lied to her for 28 years and was now using her relationship as ammunition. I need to talk to my board. Your board wants blood, Mrs. Bennett. They want this foreclosure. The question is, do you? After Jonathan Whitfield left, I sat in that coffee shop for an hour thinking about what I'd become. I'd built an empire by being ruthless when necessary. By making hard decisions that prioritized business over relationships, I'd told myself it was for Nicole's future, but the truth was simpler and darker. I'd built Bennett Financial because after my husband died, work was easier than grief. Success was easier than being a mother. And now I was about to lose my daughter to prove a point to people who'd insulted me. My phone rang. David Chen. Susan, we have a problem, the banking regulators called. They're opening an investigation into the Whitfield foreclosure. On what grounds? They're questioning whether it's a personal vendetta disguised as business necessity. Whether you're using bank assets for personal retaliation. If they find evidence of that, Bennett Financial could face sanctions, fines. We could lose our banking license. Everything I'd built for 22 years could disappear because I'd let my ego drive a business decision. What do they need from us? Full documentation, proof that the foreclosure was standard procedure, evidence that you weren't motivated by Preston's relationship with Nicole. Susan, this could get ugly fast. And with our current financial situation, we can't afford a regulatory battle right now. After I hung up, I realized Jonathan Whitfield had been right. A legal fight would expose everything. My motivations, Bennett Financial's problems, and it would destroy Nicole's relationship in the process. I called Maria, set up a meeting with the board. Tomorrow morning, we need to discuss the Whitfield situation. That night, Nicole called. Mom, Preston's father told me about your meeting. He said you're considering an extension. The board hasn't decided anything yet. But you're thinking about it. Why? Because you realized foreclosing right now makes you look bad? Or because you actually care about my happiness? Both, Nicole. It's always both. I care about you, but I also have a business to run, and those two things are in conflict right now. They're only in conflict because you made them that way. You could have told me the truth about your money years ago. You could have declined to foreclose even though the Whitfields defaulted. You could have put me first. But you didn't. I've always put you first, Nicole. No, Mom. You put your guilt first. Your need to prove you were a good mother by building an empire. Your need to be right. Your need to win. but you never asked me what I actually needed, which was just a mother who was present. The words broke something inside me, because they were completely true. Nicole, I'm sorry. I know you are. But sorry doesn't change 28 years of lies. And it doesn't change the fact that you're willing to destroy my relationship to prove you're more powerful than Preston's family. That's not fair. Life isn't fair, Mom. You taught me that. Every night you worked late. Every recital you missed. Every time I ate dinner alone. You taught me that success matters more than relationships. And now you're living that lesson. Congratulations. She hung up. I sat in my empty house and wondered if winning was worth losing everything that mattered. The board meeting was tense. 8 members sat around the conference table at Bennett Financial headquarters, reviewing the Whitfield file. David Chen presented the facts. $3.4 million loan, 90 days past due, valuable Newport property, standard foreclosure procedure. But there's the regulatory investigation, David continued. The State Banking Commission is questioning our motivations. They want to know if this foreclosure is business necessity or personal retaliation. Board member Thomas Chen, no relation to David, spoke up. Susan, we all know your daughter is engaged to Preston Whitfield. This looks bad. Even if the foreclosure is legally justified, the optics are terrible. The optics don't change the fact that they defaulted, I said. No, but they change how regulators view our judgment. And with Bennett Financial's current leverage ratios, we can't afford regulatory scrutiny. They'll dig into everything. Our loan portfolio, our capital reserves, our expansion decisions. They'll find problems we don't want exposed. Maria Rodriguez, who served on the board as Chief Operations Officer, added, I've been running numbers. If we extend the Whitfields 90 days and they manage to catch up on payments, we keep the performing loan on our books. If they can't catch up, we foreclose later with cleaner documentation and less regulatory attention. Either way, we're better off than fighting the State Banking Commission right now. So we're letting them off the hook because we're afraid? I asked. We're making a strategic business decision, Thomas said. Sometimes the best move isn't the most satisfying one. The vote was 6-2 inches favor of extending the Whitfields 90 days. I was one of the 2 who voted against it. After the meeting, David pulled me aside. Susan, I know this isn't the outcome you wanted. It's not about what I wanted. It's about what's right. Is it? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you wanted to punish Preston for underestimating you, and the board just took that option away. They defaulted on a $3.4 million loan, David, and we're giving them a chance to make it right. That's what community banks do, Susan. We work with borrowers, we give second chances. That was your original vision for Bennett Financial, remember? Before it became about expanding to 65 branches and competing with the big banks. His words stung because they were true. I'd started Bennett Financial to serve communities that big banks ignored, to give people opportunities, to be different from the institutions that had denied loans to families like mine. When had I become the thing I'd started out fighting against? I called Nicole that afternoon. The board voted to extend your in-laws 90 days. If they can catch up on payments, the foreclosure is suspended. Silence on the other end. Did you hear me, Nicole? I heard you. I'm just trying to figure out if you're telling me this because you think it makes you a good person or because you want credit for something your board forced you to do. I voted against the extension. Of course you did, because being right is more important than my happiness. Thanks for letting me know, Mom. She hung up before I could respond. That evening, Preston called. Not Nicole, Preston. Mrs. Bennett, I heard about the board's decision. Thank you. Don't thank me. I voted against it. I know, Nicole told me. But the extension still happened, and that gives us a chance. My father is liquidating assets. We're selling the vacation property in the Hamptons. We'll catch up on payments within 60 days. Good for you. Mrs. Bennett, I know you don't like me. I know I gave you plenty of reasons not to, but I love your daughter. And I'm asking you, not as the woman who owns my family's mortgage, but as Nicole's mother, to give us a chance. Give me a chance to prove I can be better than the person you met at dinner. Preston, it doesn't matter what I think. The board made a business decision. Your family has 90 days. After that, it's out of my hands. But it's not out of your hands. You own Bennett Financial. You could forgive the debt. You could restructure the loan with better terms. You have power here. Is that what Nicole wants? For me to forgive your family's debt? Nicole doesn't know I'm calling. She'd be furious if she knew. But Mrs. Bennett, I'm desperate. Not just for the house. For my relationship with your daughter. She's questioning everything now. My family, our engagement, whether I'm the person she thought I was, the foreclosure hanging over us, even with the extension, it's poisoning everything. Then maybe you should have thought about that before you demanded $55,000 from a woman you thought was poor, before you made it clear that my family wasn't good enough for yours. You're right. I was an arrogant fool. I'm still learning that old money doesn't make you better than anyone, that my family's problems are our fault, not bad luck. That Nicole's family has more real success than mine ever did. But I'm learning, Mrs. Bennett. Isn't that worth something? After he hung up, I sat with his words. Was growth worth something? Was recognizing your mistakes enough to earn forgiveness? I'd built an empire but lost my daughter's childhood. I'd hidden my success out of shame and guilt. I'd used Preston's racism to justify a foreclosure that benefited my struggling bank. Was I any better than him? My phone buzzed with a text from Nicole. Mom, Preston told me he called you. I'm sorry. He shouldn't have done that. But since he did, I need to tell you something. I've known about your money for 3 years. My hands went cold. I found documents in your home office when I was visiting. Bank statements, property deeds, investment portfolios. I've known you were wealthy since I was 25 years old. And I never said anything because I was angry. Angry that you lied. Angry that you let me feel poor. Angry that you chose building an empire over being present in my life. Another text. I chose Preston partly because he wasn't impressed by the Bennett name. He didn't know who you were. Being with him was a way of escaping your shadow, of building something that was mine, not yours. So when you say you're protecting me from him, what you're really doing is protecting your own ego, because I never needed protecting, Mom. I needed honesty. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. Nicole had known. For 3 years she'd known. We'd both been lying to each other, both keeping secrets, both pretending to be something we weren't. I called her immediately. She didn't answer. I called again. Voicemail. Nicole, we need to talk. About everything. About the lies we've both been keeping. About what we've both been hiding. Please call me back. She didn't. That night, I sat in my home office surrounded by the evidence of my success. Awards from community organizations, photos from branch openings, articles about Bennett Financial's growth. 22 years of building something I thought mattered. But what had I actually built? A financial institution that was over-leveraged and struggling. A reputation based on community values I'd abandoned in pursuit of growth. A relationship with my daughter built on lies and secrets and mutual resentment. I'd told myself I was protecting Nicole by hiding my wealth. But really, I'd been protecting myself. From the guilt of being an absent mother. From admitting that I'd chosen success over presence. From facing the reality that I'd built an empire and lost what mattered most. And now, even giving Preston's family an extension, even stepping back from the foreclosure, wasn't enough. Because the damage was already done. Nicole knew I'd lied for 28 years. She knew I'd been willing to destroy her relationship to prove a point. She knew that when the board voted for mercy, I'd voted for revenge. And there was no taking any of that back. 3 weeks passed. Nicole didn't call, didn't text, didn't respond to my messages. The Whitfields sold their Hamptons property for $2.1 million. They caught up on all missed mortgage payments. The foreclosure was officially suspended. Bennett Financial's board was satisfied. The regulatory investigation quietly closed. Everyone got what they wanted, except me. I'd lost my daughter in the process of proving I could win. Maria came into my office one morning with news. Susan, Preston Whitfield's law firm, let him go. Quietly. No public announcement. But he's out. Why? Apparently, some of his colleagues weren't comfortable with the optics. The foreclosure drama, the media coverage, the questions about his family's finances. They asked him to resign. So Preston had paid a price too. His job, his reputation, his family's dignity, all because I decided to make a point. There's something else, Maria continued. 5 other Newport families have requested to refinance their mortgages away from Bennett Financial. They're concerned about, quote, the bank's willingness to mix personal grievances with business decisions. We didn't mix anything. The Whitfields defaulted. I know that. You know that. But perception matters, Susan. And right now, people perceive us as a bank that will use their loans as leverage if they cross the owner personally. How bad is it? We're losing about $18 million in mortgage business. Not catastrophic, but not good either. Combined with our existing liquidity issues, the board is recommending we consider selling some branches. Maybe 10 or 15. Scale back to sustainable size. The empire I'd built for 22 years was shrinking, and it was my fault. My phone rang. Nicole. Mom, can we meet? I think we need to talk. We met at a coffee shop in Cambridge, neutral territory. Nicole looked tired. Older somehow. Preston and I postponed the wedding, she said without preamble. Nicole, I'm sorry. Are you? Because it seems like this is what you wanted all along. For me not to marry him. I wanted you to see who he really was. I wanted you to understand that his family was using you. His family was desperate, Mom. They made bad financial decisions, and they were drowning. That doesn't make them evil. It makes them human, flawed and scared and trying to survive. He demanded $55,000 from me, Nicole. Money he thought I couldn't afford. And you foreclosed on his family's home, using power he didn't know you had. You're both guilty of using leverage against people you thought were weaker than you. The only difference is you won. I had no response to that. I've been thinking a lot about us, Nicole continued, about why you lied to me for 28 years, about why I kept pretending I didn't know for 3 years. And I realized we're both guilty of the same thing. We both chose pride over honesty. We both let our egos damage our relationship. I was trying to protect you. No, Mom, you were trying to protect yourself from admitting you were an absent mother, from facing the guilt of choosing career over family. You let me think we were poor because it was easier than admitting you'd sacrificed my childhood for success. And you kept quiet about knowing because? Because I was angry. Because I wanted to punish you by making you think your lies were working. Because I chose Preston partly to hurt you, to show you that I could build a life without your money or your approval. We sat in silence for a moment. We're both pretty terrible, aren't we? I said finally. We're both human. Flawed and scared and trying to survive. Just like the Whitfields. So what happens now? Now? I don't know, Mom. Preston and I are in couples therapy trying to figure out if we can rebuild trust. His family is recovering financially, but their reputation is damaged. You're losing business because people don't trust your motivations, and you and I are sitting here trying to figure out if we can ever be honest with each other. I want to be honest, Nicole. I want to rebuild our relationship. Then tell me the truth. Was the foreclosure about protecting me? Or was it about proving you were more powerful than Preston's family? I looked at my daughter and decided that after 28 years of lies, she deserved the truth. Both. It was always both. They defaulted on their loan, which made the foreclosure legitimate. But did I enjoy it? Did I use Preston's racism as justification for revenge? Yes, I did. And I'm not proud of that. Thank you for being honest. Does that change anything between us? Nicole looked at me with eyes that reminded me of her father. Clear, direct, unflinching. It's a start, Mom, but trust takes time to rebuild, and right now, I need space to figure out who I am without your lies or Preston's expectations or anyone else's agenda. I need to be just Nicole, not Nicole the poor girl who turned out to be rich, not Nicole the banker's daughter, just me. I understand. Do you? Because for 28 years, you've been trying to control my narrative, lying about money, so I'd succeed on merit. Foreclosing on Preston's family to prove a point. Everything has been about your vision of who I should be. I need time to figure out who I actually am. She stood up. I'll call you when I'm ready. But Mom, it might be a while. I watched my daughter walk away for the second time, but this time felt different. This time felt like she was walking towards something, not just away from me. 6 months passed. Bennett Financial sold 12 branches to cover our liquidity crisis. We downsized from 65 branches to 53, from 1,700 employees to 1,400. The empire I'd built was shrinking, and everyone knew why. David Chen walked into my office one morning with the quarterly reports. We're stable now. Not growing, but stable. The branch sales gave us breathing room. Our capital ratios are back to acceptable levels. At what cost? 12 communities that won't have a Bennett Financial branch anymore. 400 jobs lost. Your reputation, your relationship with your daughter. He wasn't trying to be cruel. He was being honest. Something I should have been years ago. The board wants to talk about succession planning, Susan. They're concerned about leadership stability. About whether your judgment has been compromised by personal issues. They want me out. They want to know you have a plan. You're 58. You've been doing this for 22 years. Maybe it's time to think about what comes next. After he left, I sat in my office looking at the photos on my wall. Branch openings. Community awards. Articles about the immigrant success story, the self-made woman who built a financial empire. All of it felt hollow now. My phone rang. Nicole, the first time in 6 months. Mom, can we have dinner? Just the two of us? We met at a small restaurant in Providence. Nowhere fancy, nowhere with history. Neutral ground. Nicole looked different, lighter somehow, less burdened. I broke up with Preston, she said. 3 months ago. Nicole, I'm sorry. Don't be. It was the right decision. Not because of you or the foreclosure or his family's finances, but because I realized I'd chosen him for the wrong reasons. I was trying to escape your shadow, trying to build something that was mine alone. But you can't build a marriage on rebellion. What's he doing now? He's working for a smaller firm. His family sold the Newport house voluntarily before you could foreclose again. They bought something more modest. They're rebuilding, learning to live within their means. And you? I've been in therapy, working through 28 years of issues with my mother who lied to me and was never present. Working through my own issues with honesty and pride and control. What did you learn? That I'm more like you than I wanted to admit. That I inherited your need to control narratives, your inability to ask for help. Your tendency to use power to protect yourself instead of being vulnerable. The words stung because they were true. I also learned that you did the best you could with the tools you had. That after Dad died, you threw yourself into work because it was the only way you knew how to survive. That you lied about money because you genuinely believed you were giving me a better life. You were wrong, but your intentions weren't malicious. Does that make it better? No. But it makes it understandable. And understanding is the first step toward forgiveness. Are you saying you forgive me? I'm saying I'm trying. But Mom, forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean everything goes back to how it was. It means we acknowledge what happened and we decide whether we can move forward. Can we? Nicole took a deep breath. I don't know yet, but I want to try. With conditions. What conditions? No more lies. About anything. If you're struggling, you tell me. If Bennett Financial is in trouble, you tell me. If you're making decisions that affect my life, you ask me first. Complete honesty, even when it's uncomfortable. I can do that. And boundaries. You don't get to control my life anymore. You don't get to use your money or your power to manipulate my relationships or my choices. You can offer advice, but I make my own decisions, even if they're mistakes. That's fair. And therapy. We both go, individual and together. We work through this properly, not just sweep it under the rug and pretend everything is fine. Okay. We sat in silence for a moment. There's something else, Nicole said. I got a job offer. In San Francisco, director of marketing for a tech startup. Good salary, real opportunity, but it means leaving Providence, leaving you. My first instinct was to object, to offer her a position at Bennett Financial, to use money or connections to keep her close. But that was the old Susan, the controlling mother who chose power over honesty. That sounds like an amazing opportunity. You're not going to try to talk me out of it? No. You're 28 years old. You should build your own life. Make your own choices, even if it means moving across the country. Nicole's eyes filled with tears. Thank you for saying that. When do you leave? 2 months. I'll visit for holidays. We can video chat, and maybe, after some time and distance, we can rebuild our relationship without all the history weighing us down. I'd like that. After dinner, Nicole hugged me. The first real hug in over a year. I love you, Mom. Even when I'm angry, even when I don't like you very much. I love you. I love you too, baby. I watched her walk to her car, knowing this was goodbye. Not forever, but for now. My daughter was leaving to build a life without me. And for the first time in 28 years, I was letting her go without trying to control the outcome. It hurt, but it felt right. David had been right about succession planning. It was time to think about what came next. Not just for Bennett Financial, but for me. I'd spent 22 years building an empire and losing everything that mattered. Maybe it was time to figure out who Susan Bennett was without the bank, without the power, without the need to prove anything to anyone. Maybe it was time to just be. 2 years later, Bennett Financial had stabilized at 48 branches, smaller than the empire I'd envisioned, but sustainable, profitable. Focused on the community banking mission I'd started with instead of endless expansion. I'd stepped back from day-to-day operations. David Chen was CEO now. I remained as board chair, but the company wasn't my entire identity anymore. Nicole visited from San Francisco twice a year. Our relationship was better, though still complicated. We were honest with each other now, which meant acknowledging the damage we'd both caused. Honesty was harder than lies, but it was real. She'd been promoted to VP of marketing at her company. She was dating someone new, a software engineer named James, who knew nothing about Bennett Financial or Newport Society or any of the drama that had defined her previous relationship. She seemed happy, or at least, she seemed like herself. I'd started volunteering at a financial literacy nonprofit, teaching low-income families about credit, saving, homeownership. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd spent 22 years building a bank that served communities like the one I came from, but I'd lost sight of why I started. Now I was back to basics, helping one family at a time. Maria told me that Preston Whitfield had gotten engaged to someone else, a woman from a working-class background in Boston. They were planning a small wedding. No Newport mansions. No $280,000 venues. Just family and friends. His parents had downsized to a modest home in Portsmouth. They'd learned to live within their means. Preston's father told someone that losing everything was the best thing that ever happened to them, that they'd been enslaved by the need to maintain appearances. I understood that now. I'd been enslaved by the need to prove myself, to show that a black woman from South Providence could build a financial empire, to compensate for being an absent mother by being a successful businesswoman. But success without presence was just emptiness. Money without relationships was just numbers in an account. Last month, I received a letter from Preston, not for me, for Nicole, forwarded to my address because he didn't have her California contact. In it, he apologized for his arrogance, his racism, his manipulation. He thanked her for helping him see his own flaws. He wished her well. There was no request for reconciliation, no hidden agenda, just acknowledgement and growth. I sent it to Nicole. She called me after she read it. "Do you think people can really change, Mom?" "I think people can grow. Whether that's the same as change, I don't know. But growth is something. Did you grow? Or did you just get smaller?" It was a fair question. Bennett Financial was smaller, my empire was diminished, my reputation was complicated. I'd lost my daughter for 2 years and was still rebuilding that relationship. "Both," I said. "I got smaller in ways that mattered. Less ego, less need to control, less certainty that I was always right. But I also grew. I learned to be honest, to be vulnerable, to let go. Was it worth it? Foreclosing on Preston's family? Proving you had power? No. I was right about Preston using you. I was right about his family being broke and desperate. I was right about a lot of things. But being right cost me 2 years with you. It cost me my reputation. It cost me the business I'd built. And I'd give all of it back to undo the damage. But you can't undo it. No, I can only move forward. Try to be better. Hope that growth counts for something." Nicole was quiet for a moment. "It does, Mom. Growth counts." After we hung up, I sat on my porch in South Providence, in the neighborhood I'd tried to escape by building an empire. The house I'd kept as a symbol of humility while owning millions in assets. The life I'd used as a costume to hide from my own success and guilt. I'd spent 28 years lying to my daughter to protect her from my wealth. But really, I'd been protecting myself from admitting what I'd sacrificed to get it. I'd foreclosed on Preston's family to protect Nicole from manipulation. But really, I'd been protecting my ego from their dismissal. I'd built a $1.8 billion financial institution. And I'd learned that power without wisdom is just destruction with better PR. My name is Susan Bennett. I'm 60 years old now. I built an empire and lost what mattered most. I was right about almost everything, and being right almost destroyed me. If you're watching this, know that success isn't measured in branches or assets or revenge served cold. It's measured in relationships rebuilt, in honesty chosen over comfort, in growth instead of winning. I protected my daughter by destroying her trust. I won the battle and lost everything that mattered. And I learned that sometimes the most dangerous person isn't the one with power. It's the one who doesn't know when not to use it. That is Susan's story. Now I want to hear from you. Where are you watching this from? What city? What country? Drop it in the comments below. I love seeing our global community come together over these powerful stories about family, power, and the cost of being right. Real question. If you were Susan, what would you have done? Would you have foreclosed on the Whitfields immediately? Would you have given them the 90-day extension? Or would you have walked away from the whole situation and let your daughter make her own mistakes? Tell me in the comments. Hit that like button if this story made you feel something. Share it if you know someone who's ever faced an impossible choice between protecting someone they love and respecting their autonomy. Someone who built success but sacrificed relationships. Someone who was right about everything but lost what mattered most. And subscribe for more raw, real stories about family secrets, the cost of power, the difference between being right and being wise, and what happens when winning means losing everything that matters. See you in the next video.